Oops. Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful you can join us for another week.
We sure are.
And we're excited today. We have Alejandra Brady. She's written an award-winning book, which bears the title, I Just Can't Make This Shit Up. At 50, this very successful interior designer suffering from cervical compression and feeling something was missing in life took a pause and launched into a spiritual journey chronicled in the book. Her transformation began when she hired a Feng Shui master to do a consultation on her home as she prepared for the cervical fusion. It was during that consultation that the woman told her instantly that she would soon follow in her footsteps. Even though Alejandra was in disbelief, she began applying Feng Shui principles to her home. Massive transformations occurred for her health, her relationship with her husband, and her financial outcome. But much more was to come, allowing her to accept the spiritual gifts that began when she first saw someone at her bedside who had just passed over. As she opened up to her spiritual exploration, amazing synchronicities, astonishing experiences, and spiritual ahas just kept showing up. Hence, I just can't make this shit up. Overcoming fear and accepting my spiritual gifts. Today, she is a globally sought after Feng Shui consultant, combining the Eastern art of home energy enhancements, her design skills, and intuitive knowing about the clients and that felt energy in the home. So welcome. We're really, really excited to have you on with us.
Very
Thank
much
you,
so.
beautiful ladies. Thanks for having
Thank
me. I'm
you.
excited. This will be fun.
Yeah, and I love the title of your book because
I do too.
we often
Thank you.
say this,
Right?
that you just can't make this shit up.
That's
It
right.
just it all
Right.
seems to go hand
Well,
in hand.
it's so funny. If you want a quick story as to how that came about, I was playing around with all the names, and it was going to be, how I healed and all this stuff. And I walked into a session with a healer who I've never met, and so I just said, "Hi, I'm Alejandra," and she goes, "Hi." And the first thing she said to me was, "What's the name of your book? What's the title of your book?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was just writing. I didn't even know I was going to do anything with it at the time, right? And I said, "Well, I want to name it." And she goes, "No, no, 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 no. What is the title of your book?" I'm like, "Well, I really want, I just can't make this shit up, but I don't know if that's going to go." And she goes, "That's the title of your book." So that's how it happened, I got validation when I wasn't even asking the question, which is just how fun this whole journey's been.
Yes, yeah, it definitely is. And so, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are now?
Sure. My spiritual journey kind of started when I was 50, even though as I started writing the book, really the connect the dots unfolded all the way back to childhood. But I didn't know that I wasn't quite like everybody else. I'm like a lot of people out there, but not like everybody else. It didn't occur to me to ask if other people could see people that passed because I just assumed everybody could. So as I was writing the book, and those stories were coming back into my, wavelengths, and I was getting them down on paper. I'm like, oh, so this didn't just start right at 50. This has been happening for a whole long time. I just haven't been paying attention. And I didn't have the words and I didn't have the vocabulary, and as I started working with healers and we started going through things, and I got the words, then I understood that this really had been stuff that was happening my entire life. But it unfolded very quickly. At the age of 50, I went in for very unexpected, as you mentioned, cervical fusion, like just literally out of nowhere. And I had to be in a neck brace for about 6 to 8 weeks. So
Wow.
during that, yeah, and it was not fun considering from the ages of 11 to 18, I was in a back brace for scoliosis,
Oh
but it was
no.
lower lumbar. So
Yeah.
I never had anything wrong in the top half. It was all lower lumbar. So it was no real surprise when then I had to have a laminectomy at 33, spinal fusion of my lower lumbar at 47. All those kind of went along with the scoliosis. But, when all of a sudden it was my neck 3 years later, when I was kind of just getting back in the groove of things, uh, and they were like, "No, this is like really serious. You could be paralyzed if you don't do this pretty
Whoa.
immediately, like it's not tomorrow, but maybe in the next 2 weeks." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Um, my client, actually, because I am an interior designer, my client at the time, one of them, hired a Feng Shui practitioner. And she said, "Hey, do you want her to come to your house too? Maybe she can help you get set up for your surgery." And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" Not really knowing anything about it. And she did come. And she did say to me, you're going to be doing this. And I did say, no, thank you. I just want to get ready for my surgery. I have no interest in doing this. So I had my surgery. I'm laying there for 6 weeks. You know, you can't do anything. Your head's perfectly straight like this. So like you can't read, you can't drive, you can't really do much but watch TV. So we focused on our bedroom since that was where I was going to be hanging out quite a bit. And the energy shifted so much after I did what she told me to do that my husband kind of, who was not on board at the beginning, kind of came around and goes, what room do you want to do next? And I'm like, all right. So I became my own guinea pig, and we slowly went room by room as I was recovering. And by the time we did my whole house, I said, I need to do this. Like, I need to bring this into my interior design practice. Because, you know, after, as any of us know, right, when you've been doing something for a long time, you should be pretty good at it. I can make a room look beautiful with my eyes closed at this point. But to create a room that is also energetically aligned and that serves the people in there with more than just aesthetic beauty. I mean, how amazing would that be, right? So I kind of said, yes, I want to do this. Studied under her, became certified. The energy aligned in my home, and all this stuff is because of that. So once the energy kind of aligned in my house, I started wanting to know more about other modalities. I dived into meditation, and it was one of my very, very, very first meditations in my most highly energetic room in my house that I got told I was going to write a book.
Nice.
And again, like everything else, I said, no, thank you. I have no interest in doing this. Oh, like, no, I'm just learning Feng Shui. I don't want to write a book. You know, here we are a few years later. I'll be 57 in September. So this airs a little bit after that. So I'll be 57 by the time this comes out. So 7 years into the journey so far, but the book came out 2 years ago. And yeah, that's kind of how it all unfolded. And just, you know, it just keeps going and going. It's just an amazing thing that has happened in my life, but it started by energetically aligning my house.
Beautiful.
I love that. So can we talk a little bit about that? Like some,
yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
some of how a person would go about aligning their house. Like, is there some things that without getting a feng shui master in that we could do, or that are like kind of
essential,
that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Or want to
Yeah,
describe what feng shui is? 'Cause
absolutely. Yes,
I guess I know and mom knows, but
not everybody does,
not
right?
everybody
And this
knows.
is true. And this is what my wish is, to make it so much more mainstream, because why wouldn't you want to work with the energy that's already there, right? Where I work against it. The way I was trained, I am trained and certified in BTB Feng Shui, which is a more Western approach. I'm not sure which one you are familiar with, but the master that, probably the Western one, you think?
Yeah.
The master that brought it over from China in the early 80s found that he was traditionally trained, and found that most people in the Western world were not going to put, you know, their swimming pools in the front of the house, because that is where water is more auspicious, according to Feng Shui. But we're just not going to do that, right? So he kind of developed his traditional techniques with a more westernized approach that works with Western homes. And that is what I mainly work with. I don't really have any clients that are not in westernized style homes as of now. That's not who has sought me out. And I almost probably I would also say, you know, find somebody that's better at compass, or, you know, a different form of feng shui that would work with their homes if it was a different area of the world. But feng shui basically translates to wind and water. Feng means wind, shui means water. And what that dilutes down into is unseen versus seen forces. So the simplest way that I like to explain it to people is, if you are looking to build your home and there's a mountain in front of you, if you build it at the very, very tippy top of the mountain, you get beautiful views, but unseen forces like gales and gusts of wind could wreak havoc on your home, right? If you build it at the very bottom of the mountain and there's a river running near there, then water could rise up and also create damage in your home. And that's a seen thing. So we're always looking for that sweet spot between the unseen and the seen, and trying to create that beautiful balance and harmony so that your house is energetically aligned with you and the people that are in it, and with the life that you want to lead moving forward. That's basically my entire job on this planet, is to help people create that balance along with the beauty, right? Because I am an interior designer, so I like it to be beautiful. I don't want it. You can see behind me, this is my office. I'm not a minimalist. I love pretty things. And I'm also not huge unless it's absolutely necessary, unlike the tchotchke Feng Shui stuff. So I try and bring it in as much as I can by working with the different elements and colors and shapes that the Bagua map allows me to use. And so here, actually, and like we said, this was going to be organic, right? We don't know where it's going. I created a What Can You Feng Shui Today card deck. And this is exactly for who the people you're talking about. If you're not ready to call in and work with a practitioner one-on-one, whether you can't, you don't want to, you want to try it yourself, the card deck has 77 cards and goes through your entire house. So by the time you've done it, you've done what I've done coming to you in a consultation. So, but the reason I pull that out is because I have a Bagua map there. And that is our main tool that we as BTB practitioners use. So normally we'll line up the front door with your career area. And if you want, I can just give you the 9 areas of life that are represented on this so that people understand how we're working with the energy. So very simply, we normally try and line up career with the front door. It may line up with skills and knowledge. It may line up with helpful people and travel, but the majority of consultations, when you go to someone's house, it's going to line up more or less in the center, right? Your main door, the door that is meant to be the front door of your home or apartment or space, whatever it is that the situation is. So then if you line up with your career, you can start going around the entire Bagua map, and you've got helpful people and travel, which happens to be where my office is in this house. And I just love that. There is children and creativity. And this does not necessarily mean calling in children or children you already have, but it could also mean a project. You know, I birthed the book. The book is another child, you know. Love and relationships. And this includes all your relationships, just not intimate and romantic ones. It's like your relationships around the world. Fame and reputation, how you are seen out in the world in business. Wealth, one of the main ones everybody comes to me for, right? Family and ancestors, skills and knowledge. And then in the center of everything is health, right? Because if you don't have health, then the rest of this is meaningless. So when people reach out to me, a lot of times, you know, they want to talk about wealth, they want to talk about love and relationships, or they want to talk about health. Those are like the 3 big ones I always get. And I have to explain to them that, sure, we can go to the back left-hand side of your house and take a look at your wealth corner and see what's going on there. No problem. However, what everyone has to remember is that you have to look at your house as a whole. It's a being just like you are energetically. So if I don't have helpful people, if I don't have clients, if I don't have people like you guys to talk to, then, you know, there's no way for me to accumulate wealth, right? You need helpful people to accumulate wealth. You need skills and knowledge. There's no way that you're going to create wealth if you have no knowledge of anything. I mean, so you start to see how you need different ones to coordinate all the way around and how it works as a whole. You know, if you feel like crap all the time, well, you're probably not going to be working very hard towards making wealth, right? So again, it all just works together. So I always tell people the main place to start is your front door. That is the simplest. I can give you guys some easy tips that really will be minimal in cost that you guys can all go do today or this week, or, you know, give yourself a little timeline. But your front door is like the mouth of your home. So the windows are the eyes, the doors are your voice, the front door is the mouth. So just like we take nutrients in through our mouth, our home gets its energy in through the front door. So if it is dirty, not working, the hardware sticking, the light bulbs are burnt out, there's dead plants, there's a ratty old doormat, you know, you name it, piles of shoes by the front door, all those could be creating obstacles to letting fresh energy into your home. If your home can't be seen from the road, the house that we bought in Sedona, you couldn't see it from the road. So I'm like, well, if you can't see it, energy can't get to it. So, you know, we had to go through all the permits because an arborist came out and so forth and so on. But we cleared enough land to be able to have energy move through the front door. And that was super important. The people that we bought the house from were older, kind of closed in, and that was the energy. So my superpower is I can pull up to your front door and I don't have to say a word to you. If I walk into your house and I walk to your front door, I can see what's going on. I can tell you somebody probably has knee problems. Somebody's probably having, issues with their stomach or is getting headaches or migraines, whatever the case may be, just by looking at your house.
Right.
Because it's talking to me. So
I have an interesting question then for
Yeah.
you on that, because so we don't use our front door. What is the front door? We use one to the side, which would, I suppose, be like kind of the garage entrance, but that's what we use as our front door. That's where we welcome people. So I've always questioned, and I've been trying to think about this, like because I said to my husband, can we please just use that door as our front door? And that's a hard no. So I'm like, how do I get around that? Or can I off shift it from that?
Well, your front door is your front door. So even if you're not going to use it, my tip for you would be to open it at least once a day.
Okay.
Like actually open it with the intention of saying, I'm opening this very intentionally to allow fresh energy into our home, regardless of the fact that you use it. We all use our garage a lot, right? Because you pull in the car and you get out and you go in and out. But that front door does need to be used, and it still needs to be in great shape. Make sure the paint is fresh, the hardware doesn't stick. I cannot tell you the amount of clients that I have who are having an issue with career opportunities. And they're like, I feel stuck. I feel stuck. And I go right to the hardware. And if that hardware is sticking, I'm like, okay, well, let's start here. So a lot of times it's very literal. The first half hour of my consultations, and I do them virtually all over the world. It's very easy. If you're in the Tampa area or you want to fly me someplace cool, one client just flew me to Aspen. Love it. But the first place that we have to start is in having a conversation and having the client tell me what's going on in your life. And I listen for those keywords. I feel stuck. I don't have opportunities. I feel overwhelmed. If there's a pile of shoes by the front door and you can't open that door all the way, whether it's in front or in back, then that's also creating obstacles for energy to come in. If somebody tells me I feel burnt out, let's take a look and see how many lights are burnt out in your house. I was just at, this was a friend, not a client, at a friend's house in New Orleans a few weeks ago. And everybody in the family, husband and wife, were saying that they were exhausted and burnt out and just at their wits' end. And I'm not kidding you. Their dining room chandelier, 7 out of 8 of the bulbs were burned out.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I just looked at them and I go, guys, you might want to look at those. They're like, oh, but we're so tired. I'm like, yeah, that's why you're tired. Like,
Fix that.
and it gets into that cycle, right? I'm too tired to do anything about it. So the whole space keeps getting worse and worse and worse and more neglected. And it doesn't get any better till you put some energy into making it better. And then you will then in turn feel better. So look for those burnt out light bulbs if you're feeling burnt out. Dead plants, not good energy, so you can still do all of this to your front door, even if you're not using it consistently. And then just promise me you're going to open it at least once a day, but make sure that doormat is fresh and clean and swept, and that whole entry is just pristine, because that's the invitation. You also don't want, this is a fun little tip, because so many people love monogram everything under the sun. You do not want a doormat with your name or initial on it, because people are energetically stepping on your name every time they walk into your home.
I actually just saw a thing on, I think, Instagram or something that Marie Diamond said.
Oh yeah, she's amazing.
And it was,
yes.
It was exactly that. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because even in talking to you, we had moved our patio set over, like we have a couple of chairs and a table out front. And I was like, I think we moved those in the front door. No wonder things get blocked, right? If you're, like you said, like as using it in a literal sense. So I think people can take away from that to say, I also heard, don't have like go away or those kind of cute.
Right.
Right.
I'm not a fan of any of those. I like simple, they can be fun, they can be colorful, they can reflect your personality. But yes, if you're trying to invite an energy, why would your doormat say go away?
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? It's like you just have to think about things. And sometimes it's just reframing the way we think, because so much of the time we're on autopilot. I had a client who was having trouble breathing and was on an oxygen tank and wasn't sleeping. And so they called me over, and they were older than my normal clients. They were late 70s, early 80s. And he was sleeping under a beautiful painting of Venice that meant a lot to them. It was very expensive. They bought it on a magical trip there. But I just looked at him and I said, so where can you, the things he was telling me, I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I'm underwater. I feel like I'm drowning. Well, where does all that happen to a human being? In water. I'm like, you're sleeping under water, you know? So we just moved it. I'm like, we're not getting rid of it. We're moving it to like near the front of the house where water would be an auspicious thing to have. And again, the Bagua map kind of shows you what elements, what colors, what shapes. And if your listeners just go to my website, you can download a free one. So they can get that. So if you put that in the show notes, if they just go to the website and click on free Bagua map, they can download their own Bagua, and then that gives them a starting off point.
Okay,
So
perfect. Thank you.
that's there for them. But, you know, pay attention to your front door. Next, I would say pay attention to your bedroom, because we spend a third of our life there. So again, like the gentleman that I just, 2 weeks later, he was out walking around and playing with his granddaughter on the front lawn, just by moving the water that he was sleeping under for more than a third of his life at that point, because he was so tired, he was sleeping a lot. So again, just that cycle, right, just keeps getting worse and worse and becomes a vicious cycle, because you're more tired, so you're sleeping more underwater, which makes you more tired, which, it's just never ending. So those are some good ones. I'd say the bedroom, what you eat, the way that I was trained, what is closest to you affects you the most. So what you're putting in your body, what you're putting on your body, the products on your body. My post today on Instagram was all about non-toxic beauty, because I get a lot of questions about that. And, if you're not going to eat chemicals, why are you putting them on your body? What you wear, what you sleep on, your mattress, your bed are so important. What's under your bed? Nothing, hopefully. And it just expands from there, and that's the beauty of the one-on-one consultations, is I can get very specific to what's going on in your life. But these are just some very, very basic Feng Shui 101 guidelines that can help anybody kind of get started, and then, see how the energy feels as you make these adjustments. I always suggest everybody keep a notebook and write down what you did, the date you did it, why you did it. And then it's really fun to see like what transpires and how quickly sometimes, like this gentleman was 2 weeks. All I did was move one thing in their house.
Wow.
That's amazing.
To no oxygen. Oxygen to no oxygen.
Wow. Oh, to no oxygen.
No oxygen. No.
Wow.
He was done with the oxygen tank after 2 weeks.
Wow. That's
amazing. Yeah, that's one of my wildest. So I do use that one, and not everything's like that, nobody just wins the lottery. I haven't had one win the lottery in 2 weeks yet when we adjusted our wealth corner, but you never know.
No, you don't.
What you're doing is you're doing your half of the work, right? You're putting out the invitation to universe, source, God, whatever your words are, to bring in that good energy to help you, your family. Another big question I get is if the wife wants to do it, or one spouse wants to do it, and the other people in the house are not into it, does it still work? Yes, because you are shifting the energy of the space. And sooner or later, everyone will feel it, and everyone will start to fall in line because of it. Even pets feel it.
Nice. So what if a person, so many people live in apartments and that, the front door isn't the same front door that you walk in the apartment?
It's the front door to the apartment.
Okay.
Yeah, my son and daughter-in-law live in an apartment in DC, and they just had me fly up there to help them move into their new apartment a few months ago. And that's what she asked me, that very question. She goes, but I have no control. I'm like, you have control the minute you open the door to your space. And her apartment doesn't let her have a front doormat. So I'm like, that's fine. You can't have one. You do the best with what you are able to do. And it doesn't mean that everything's going to go to hell because you didn't put a plant outside in a front doormat. It just means that you have control the second you walk over that threshold in an apartment. So that's where you start to work.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's
good to know.
Yeah, it is good to know, because I think so many people, think about your situation where you are. And it's funny because we just recently did some home renos, and we basically put all our stuff into our garage. And my husband said, I'd really like to, especially the pictures on the wall, because we just painted, to bring them in with intent and look at them and say, where do we want these pictures? What do we want to do? And so we've been doing that, and it's really interesting because you find things and you're like, I don't know if I want that anymore, or I don't know if that's where it's best suited, or those kind of things. So
artwork is super, super important because you're going to see it every day, and you need to make sure that it is energetically aligned. I had it at my own house. You become blind after a while when you're walking up and down, and we had the whole, picture wall up the staircase. And one day after I started doing all the work on my house, I looked up and I just really looked. I like to invite people to go into their home as if they were visiting, like stand outside your door, gate, whatever it is, and then just walk up and walk in as if you're visiting this place for the first time, and really pay attention to what's around you, because you'll be fascinated at what you find. There was one picture in particular, and I am like, oh my gosh, divorce, dead. One person had actually OD'd in the photo. Like there were all these negative connotations in just this one photo. And I'm like, oh, and it was in my health center, because our staircase at that house was in the center of our home. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I started looking at all of them, and I told my husband, I'm like, I want to take them all down. He goes, please don't do this to me, because I know you're going to want them back up. And it was just a nightmare to get them all organized.
Yeah.
And I go, no, I think I want them down, patched and painted, and nothing back up. And it felt so good to do that. And so I tell everybody, be very intentional. When people are looking for a partner, walk around your space. If there's a ton of single subject artwork, then you're not inviting anyone in. All right. It's all about one, and I do see this a lot. I even see it when I'm watching TV shows. People have just these, like, I don't want to say glamour shots, because I don't even know if that exists anymore, but these, photo shoot shots of just them all over their houses in these huge canvases. And it's just, not a recipe for partnership or collaboration or anything else, in the house. Unless, of course, you want to be alone, then have at it. But if you don't, if you're trying to call in a partner or another person, of any kind, then you want to make sure you have some artwork that includes pairs too of things.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one too. But yeah, and chaotic artwork with body parts missing, all of that is not good, Feng Shui wise, energetically wise. A lot of people have just the Buddha heads. And
Right.
then when I'm talking to them, they're like, oh, it's spiritual. I'm like, mm-hmm. And I'm like, so what's going on with you? And eventually they'll get to the point where I hear like they always feel like they're floating, their head's in the clouds, they can't focus. I'm like, well, yeah, you're headless. You're just a little head floating around, So it does translate. You have to be super intentional with what you put in your home.
True. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
That does make a lot of sense. I like that, because like I say, that's what we're currently doing.
Right.
And it's really
And
funny
take
because
your time.
yeah, I said it doesn't matter how long it takes, right? And
Mhm.
if it takes too long, we'll know just to get rid of it, because we didn't miss it anyways. So
Correct. Correct.
That is so true.
because I'm very much about getting rid of things. Like in our front closet, we actually have a no thank you box, which just means we don't want it anymore. So
Right.
we, when other family members come, we're like, go ahead and look through it. The only deal is you take it away, you can't bring it back.
I love that idea.
And then
That is
eventually
great.
we
I might use
donate
that.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think that's a
So
fabulous idea.
yeah, and then
That's
after
great.
a while we just recycle it, or donate it, or
Take it to the
take it to
homeless.
the homeless or what have you. But it gets us out of art, because I don't like a lot of clutter. I like things, but I don't
Mhm.
like clutter. So
Right.
to me, it's like, let's just move this out of the house.
Yeah.
Well, and true, how many of us keep things out of obligation and out of guilt? That's a big one for me when I walk into people's homes. They're like, I don't like it, but so and so gave it to me. And they may come over one time, and I'm like, I'm giving you permission to let it go, and give it to somebody who may enjoy it. It doesn't work for you. So I've trained all my friends and families over the years now. I'm like, I want gifts that are disposable. And by what I mean by that is, bring me beautiful candles or scented body lotions or a massage gift certificate or a trip, that kind of flowers, that kind of stuff that is either easily regiftable if I don't like it, or you consume it. I'm not stuck having to put it on a shelf for the rest of my life because I'm going to hurt my son's feelings,
Yeah.
So, but and if you tell people, they seem to, sometimes they even feel like relieved. It's like, oh God, I never know what to get you. Well, here you go. Here's a list of things I would love. Restaurant gift certificate, massage gift certificate, fabulous trip to Europe. Throw it all out there.
Like me.
Never know, right? I mean, you never know. You've got to put it out in the universe. So I think that is just a direction that I try and encourage all my clients to go, for them to do to others as well as for themselves, to ask people to do for themselves, just to create less of that clutter and keeping things out of obligation. The only thing I would say is I may want you to put that box in the garage so that the energy of no thank you is not in your front closet, which would be near your career.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think back to the doormat, right? Go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I
then
just say put it out.
I will do that. I will move it out there. So is it true, because I read or heard or something somewhere, that if you're feeling stagnant, like life is kind of stagnant and all is good, if you move 27 things, that it pops back up that energy?
Absolutely. So 27, because 27 condenses to 9, right? If you add 2 plus 7, and 9 is a very auspicious number in Feng Shui. It's the cycle of completion. So it just kind of completes and restarts the energy. So people always freak out when I suggest this to them. It's one of my favorites, especially like if somebody is calling me and I'm booked and I can't get to them for a couple of weeks, I'll tell them to go do a salt burn to clear. And then I'll tell them move 27 things around and just hang tight till I get there, It works. It helps people have some ownership, right, of their own surroundings, and helps them move forward a bit until we can look at what's really going on. But people freak out when I tell them to move 27 things. They're like, where am I putting them? Do I have to get rid of them? I'm like, you can put them anywhere you want. You don't have to do anything. You can literally lift it up and shift it over 1/4 of an inch or put it back. So it's not about moving it to a different location. It's about the act of moving it, period. So if people are freaked out or just don't have time to think it through, what I always suggest is going to like your silverware drawer or where your pots and pans are or your dishes. Think about that. If you've got 8 plates and you take them all down, put them in a different order, stack them back up, do the same thing with your cups, do the same thing with your salad bowls, whatever it is, you're going to get to 27 really quickly. And you don't have to shift cupboards. You don't have to do anything like that. It's the intention behind it. I'm moving 27 things on purpose because I'm trying to move the energy around and get rid of the stagnant energy that I'm feeling in my home. So again, with Feng Shui, the intent is just as important as the action, right?
Yes.
So the action is the Shui part of it, the physical that you can see, just to kind of help set that intention, which is what you don't see.
Right. So is there anything that you think, besides the welcome mat with your initials on it or your name on it or those kind of things, is there any things that you think shouldn't be in a house?
I'll share a funny story with you guys. So when we were looking for our second home in Sedona, and that's part of my book too, I just can't make this shit up. By the time I got told the word Sedona, 10 days later, I owned a home in Sedona. And I didn't know what it was or where it was, but that's how fast the universe works with me when I'm paying attention and I'm listening and I'm doing what it wants me to do. My spirit guides team, I call them they because I feel like there's a whole bunch around me.
Yeah.
But so we're driving around in Sedona, never having been there before. And we're with the real estate agent. And literally we would pull up to homes and I'm like, no, next one. I'm not even going in there. Like you could just feel the energy. It just felt off. It looked dirty, unkempt. And I'm like, no. So we pull up to this one house and my husband really, really wanted this house. It was in Uptown. It was a great location. We could walk to all the restaurants. And I'm like, I don't know, but okay, I'll get down and see it. As we're walking up to the front door, it was raised. So like the bottom, because it was up against a mountain. So the lower level where the garage was at what we would consider the main level, and then you'd walk up these stairs to the front door. So at the base of the staircase, on either side of the staircase, were two talavera. Do you know what talavera pottery is? It's that Mexican pottery that's super colorful.
Oh.
You can picture it. So it's like painted pottery. Two coiled up spitting cobras.
Oh,
On
wow.
either side of the stairs as you're going to walk up the stairs. I'm like, well, that's a no, Again, I don't know if they were thinking it was protection. I don't know what the people in the house were feeling, but my feeling as somebody coming into the home was, like this does not feel good. I don't want to go any further. So again, super intentional about what you place out there, because you never know how it can come across to others. So you have to think about that. I really don't know. And then I went into the house. It was a split level. Energy doesn't really love a split level house to start with. So I went downstairs back to the lower level on the other side of the garage. And I kid you not, there were 3 twin beds with a clown hanging over each twin bed.
Oh,
By fishing line, and just like some clown figurine hanging, looking down, like the face was staring down at the bed and the rest of the body was just limp hanging with fishing wire. And I just I'm like, get me out, get me out, get me out, get me out, get me out now. And I told the real estate agent, I go, listen, A, we're not buying it. And B, please, please, please tell these people to take these things down. They're going to like traumatize their children forever if this is hanging over their heads in their sleep. Like, this is just not okay, And the house had been on the market for quite some time. It was down like 400,000 or 500,000, which is a lot, especially in Sedona, because houses go immediately. And I just said, and I'm telling you why it's not selling, the 2 spitting cobras. So if you want to sell it, tell her to get rid of that. Tell her to get rid of the clowns hanging over the kids' beds. And I think you may have a better shot at getting this house sold, because the energy is just horrible here, and again, a whole bunch of dead plants, anything that feels unwelcoming. You'll know, spiky plants, a whole bunch of super spiky plants. And now we definitely have to take location into consideration here. Again, our house was covered with cactus all over because we lived in the desert. So people are like, no, but if that's what your location calls for, then just try and have by your front door something that's maybe a little softer, that isn't so spiky, if your surrounding area has to be, pear cactus and, whatever it is that you've got in your area, because there's nothing we could do about it. And I wasn't going to rip out the entire landscaping. And that's the only thing that would survive. So sometimes that matters too. If you're living in the dead of winter up north and it's freezing cold, well, you're not going to have any live plants by the front door for a few months, right? I mean, you have to work with what's around you, but objects, doormats, things in bad shape, cracked windows, cracked lights, all that stuff. I would just pay attention to all of it.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah,
mean, I think that helps people, right? To kind of take a look, like you said, take a look at their space and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's why I'm feeling this way, or I'm feeling, whatever, or things aren't
Right.
moving as they should be.
right. Another super easy one that doesn't cost a penny: keep your toilet lids down.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. But toilets in general, just like bathrooms in general, are money drains. They're energy drains and money drains because the water goes down, right? So some bathrooms like ours that has 3 shower heads, a tub, 2 sinks, and a toilet, what's that? 6 different drains? That's a lot of energy going downwards. So you need to learn how to counteract that. But one very simple thing that can help start along that process is to keep the lids closed.
Good to know, because
Mhm.
I do that.
Yeah.
So, and then it was funny because so the door we do come in for the most part leads right into the bathroom. And so my husband finally said to me, he goes, can we just not, because I'm very like, let's keep doors open and I like
Mhm.
that. So he's like, but could we just please keep that door, even if it's not shut all the way, but just kind of shut? Because the last thing I want is people to walk right into the house into looking at our bathroom at the toilet. And I'm like, That sounds fair.
And there's a beautiful reason why to use that front door again.
Right? Exactly.
So closing the door at least will help that.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Because it keeps that energy, tucked into the bathroom.
Yeah.
You should. I mean, my feng shui teacher would say that all your bathroom doors should always be closed, and she'll walk around my house and close the doors because she'll come to visit if she's near, if this part of the world, she travels all over the world. And she'll walk around and close. I'm like, but my bathrooms are really pretty. So I try and do other things to counteract it. But yes, I would say most consultants would say keep that door closed if possible. I kind of feel like, bathrooms are not what bathrooms used to be. When feng shui was first being started to be practiced, people were in an out hole, there's a hole in the ground. Obviously, you want to keep that separate, keep it detached, keep it closed. But people are building $100,000 bathrooms, for goodness sake, that feel like spas and have saunas in them and all these beautiful, beautiful amenities. So I'm a little more lax personally on that. As long as the bathroom is absolutely gorgeous, the toilet lids are down, you're counteracting by doing all the other things that you can do to help counteract the draining energy, and you're not just walking into it. I would say in your case, I would keep it closed because you're literally walking right into it. It's the first thing you see when you walk in your home.
Right.
But as long as it's something beautiful to look at, if you want to have your door open, great. Maybe just if you're lucky enough to have a different room just for the water closet, keep that door closed.
Yeah.
That's another way to approach it. But yeah, I mean, they really are. They're so beautiful now that it's just a different situation than it used to be when some of these guidelines were put into place. And that's what we have to remember, and that's what Professor Lin had to remember when he came over here from China, was Western households are a bit different in that way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I like that where you say that, because I think that gives people hope, right? Oh, I'm not so boxed in by these rules that I can't, change them up a little bit.
Right.
Because you're right. Nowadays, people have their bathrooms just absolutely.
I mean, they're incredible. I have a client who did an entire onyx bathroom, like floor to ceiling, and the floors are heated. So you walk in and it just feels amazing. It's glowing, the beautiful fixtures. I'm like, I want this room open to everybody, I mean, it's beautiful. So you just have to, use some common sense too. It's 4,000 to 6,000 years of common sense, really, is what feng shui boils down to. So, your kitchen, another really powerful area in your home. So make sure your stove is clean, your ovens are clean, they're prosperity centers and prosperity enhancers. So, it all works together.
Yeah. Perfect. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, that gives us and everybody else a lot of things to think about. And I love how you just conveyed that it is so much common sense, right? Because even when I was thinking about stuff, it was like, oh yeah, that needs to move, or that needs to, because I think there's just things we don't think about when it's like a Buddha head or something like that, right? Or in our relationship area where we're, have this single person, and then you're like, why are we always fighting?
Right. No, very true. Very true. I had a client who wanted to call in somebody, and she was a Reiki teacher. So her house was really well appointed and very energetically aligned. So I'm like, oh God, you've stumped me. I don't know what's going on here. And we walked into the bedroom, and I was just looking around, and finally it's like, thank you. Because that is where my guides come in. I'm highly clairaudient. So when I can't, depend on my feng shui knowledge, I'm just like, guys, help me out here. I don't know what to do here to help her. And I always ask, like before a podcast, before I do anything, I'm like, please channel through me what this audience needs to hear. So it's everyone's highest and greatest good, because I'm just a mouthpiece, right, for this information. So I said, I don't know what to do. And I got the little nudge that said, what's under the bed? And I go, what's under your bed? She goes, oh, nothing, just papers. And I go, can we see what papers are under your bed? She goes, oh, it's just my divorce papers and stuff from old boyfriends and gifts and letters and cards from old boyfriends. I'm like, okay. Well, maybe that's why you can't call in anyone new, because there's already a whole lot of people here. There's energy from like 4 or 5 different men already in this space, because you are sleeping on top of your divorce papers. Let's think about that for a minute.
Yeah, that's
right? It just doesn't feel good when you say it out loud, but we do things unconsciously, and it happens to all of us. Listen, I'm guilty of it too. I have to always be thinking, and when I can declutter on a daily basis. I can find something to get rid of almost every day, but you have to be intentional and be thinking of it. It's an ongoing process. It's not like, oh, I did it once and it's forever done. It just isn't, it's an ongoing process as things come in and out of your home. And as you change and as what you want changes, and as you start manifesting what you want, well, then what's step 2? What's step 3, moving forward? So we got rid of all that. And last I heard from her, she was in a happy and healthy relationship. So
Nice. That's
took a couple of
beautiful.
months after we cleared it all out and, did some energetic clearing, and she met somebody she really likes. So
Very nice.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So again, pay attention to what's around you.
that's so true. I was at my son's house, and his wife said to me, I don't know, our bedroom has got some really yucky energy. And I said to her, so what's in there? Can I see? She said, yeah. So I went over to her jewelry box and I opened up the jewelry box and I said, what's that ring from? And she's, well, that's from our
Mhm.
last marriage.
Yep.
I said,
Yep.
yeah, that
100%.
should probably not be in your bedroom.
Right.
And, I said, you can put it lots of places, but don't put it in your bedroom. And she says, oh, okay. So she moved it out. It was better. But it was like, but that was the first thing that was brought to me was the ring. It's kind of
I mean, it's so true, right? Because that energy is still there. And certainly a ring, it holds so much meaning, right? So I keep, just a fun little tip. I keep a selenite bowl right next to where all my jewelry is in my closet. So I take off my rings every day, and I put everything that I wore that day into the selenite bowl overnight to clear it, because our
Oh,
jewelry takes in our energy and the energy of where we've been all day long and the people we've interacted with. And as you guys know, even through the computer, you can take in people's energy.
right.
So I take off all my jewelry every night and I let it sit in that bowl overnight to clear. And then I put it away the next morning and then, put on whatever else I'm going to wear. But that's just like a fun little tip that, again, is super easy to do. And you can get little selenite bowls anywhere, and just clearing that energy and bringing it back down to neutral, so that you're not, if you had a fight the day before or you cut yourself or whatever the case may be, that energy's still on what you're about to put back on your body.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. I love that.
And I love that too. I wrote it down actually.
Oh, good.
I was like, nope, need that one down, because those little things are so good to know,
They
especially.
just help you. You know what I mean? They're like little tips that are so helpful, that are not big outlays of money, but they're a big outlay in how the energy is going to change in your space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, we've always kind of loved feng shui and moving things and placing things. And sometimes I can tell if I'm really, I don't know, my mood is off or something. I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what is wrong in my house? I need to like get through there and take a look, because a lot of times, like you said, it is just common sense, and it is just, you look and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why? Yeah.
Oh my
Right.
God, I just got told to tell you guys this. Okay, so I had a client reach out to me yesterday whose home I've done. So it's really good energy. She's very into it. She's everything. She's in a book club, and she texted me yesterday morning. There must be somebody in your audience that needs to hear this. And she said that she was reading the book for July, and she went to sleep night before last, and she had sleep paralysis and felt like an entity was sitting on her, and really, like, she really, really, really upset her. And she's like, my house is clear, my energy's good, what's going on? And so there's just another instance in, pay attention to what you're reading. I'm like, what is this book about? She goes, it's about a psycho. Let me see if I can even find the text. I'll tell you exactly what it is, because I'm like, oh God. I'm like, stop reading it. I don't care what they tell you at book clubs. Stop reading it. She said, a psycho thriller. And I just started reading it. Woke up last night with a feeling someone was in my room, then later woke up when I was sleeping on my stomach and felt like someone was holding me down. And she said, my first thought is, I'm channeling this book into my dreams. It's about a serial killer. And I'm like, girl, first just stop reading it. And we had to go through a whole clearing. Like, you're going to have to clear your room. You're going to have to clear your bed. And, you can't read that. Like, that's just not serving you. You're too highly energetically in tune. If somebody vibrates at a very low level, this may not affect them. People who are listening to this podcast obviously are vibrating at a higher level.
Right.
So you need to be careful what you read too. You need to be careful what you watch. You just can't watch all these things that are on TV and at the movies anymore. I used to, as a kid, love horror movies. I can't even watch a trailer for one. You just have to be super careful about what you let in, because all of that affects you. All of that is energy. She brought a book into her house, and look at what a horrible experience she had.
Really.
Yeah, and especially if she's keeping it beside her bed, right? It's
She
almost
was
like
reading
that
it in bed. Yeah.
yeah, it's almost like that invitation when you put it on your bedside of like, because I really do believe that. Like, and I often look through my drawer beside my bed because I'm like, what's in there that is maybe not good?
Mhm.
One time I found a pair of scissors. I'm like, well, that's probably not the best thing to have while you're sleeping beside, right?
It can lead to surgeries. Scissors, knives, or anything in the vicinity of your bed or under your bed, even if it's a floor below your bed, can lead to a lot of surgeries. I learned that one the
Really?
hard way.
Well, good to know. So,
Yeah.
if you had a final thought for our followers, what would it be?
I would say start with your front door. Don't feel overwhelmed by everything we talked about here. Hopefully you took some notes. If not, listen to it again and take some notes, because there was a lot of information and I know people get overwhelmed. Start small, start with your front door, make sure that's in great shape. Then just walk your house with a little notebook as if you were visiting, and then start room by room. Don't try and do it all at once. Don't try and tackle everything together. It'll be overwhelming. Look at clutter, look at artwork, look at your bed, look at your kitchen, and just go little by little by little. If you want further guidance, you can get the guidebook or my oracle cards. If you want more guidance than that, we can book a consultation. But you can do a lot of it without me. You can certainly start working on that and take some ownership and some, yeah, I guess ownership's the right word, of your home and of your space, and treat your home like another family member. Hopefully you treat your family members nicely. So if you don't, treat this one like it's a guest. I don't know. But we named our home. I have a plaque above the front door. So our house has a name. So all our homes have had names. So that helps you treat them as a family member. And what you do for your home will reflect in you, and you reflect your home. It's vice versa.
I love that.
Cool. That is really cool.
That's very nice. And so can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Oh, sure. My website, I guess, is the easiest. It's alejandrabrady.com. That's a simple one. And I'm most active on Instagram, and it's Alejandra G. Brady Lifestyled all together, because I just can't do them all. There's just too many, and I have no interest in doing them all. So
Keeps you busy.
Instagram, it's too much. It's a full-time job and I just don't want it. So Instagram is kind of where I focus my attention, and where people can just reach out in a DM or whatever if they, want to book or want to ask a quick question or something like that.
Beautiful.
I will say I don't answer personal ones. If somebody sends me a floor plan on Instagram, I'm not going to answer that, because I need to know what's going on in your house, because everything reflects everything else. But it's certainly a way to start the communication process.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you. And we will put those into the show notes for people to
Awesome.
find you. And it's been such a pleasure, and we learned so much. And I
Did we
know
ever?
the followers will have learned lots that they can get started. I'm going to go and do some things to my front door as soon as we're done here. So
Yay! Let me know how it goes. I would love to hear the follow-up. And yeah, just move that box to the garage or something, the no thank you box.
Okay, I will do that. Well, again, it's been such a pleasure. We're so grateful that you
Yeah.
could join us.
Very much.
Thank you
very
guys.
much.
I appreciate it. Loved my time with you.
Okay.
It's been fun.
It has been
It
fun.
has been fun.
And everybody else, we'll see you next
You
time.
bet.
Bye.
Bye.